Welcome to Owl Books, Book The Power of Self-Discipline. Today topic Chapter 17 and 18. Chapter 17. Self-discipline and physical fitness. Mental toughness is many things and rather difficult to explain. Its qualities are sacrifice and self-denial. Also, and most importantly, it is combined with a perfectly disciplined will that refuses to give in. It is a state of mind that you could call character in action. Vince Lombardi. For you to achieve and maintain high levels of physical fitness requires a lifetime of self-discipline and willpower. The good news is that physical fitness is its own reward. Not only do you feel good while you are exercising, but you feel wonderful about yourself the rest of the time. If your goal is to live a long, healthy, happy life and be fit and trim physically, there is no substitute for regular exercise. Fortunately, you do not have to train for the Olympics or a triathlon to enjoy superb levels of physical well-being. By building exercise and physical training into your daily routine, you can achieve physical fitness just by making a few small modifications to your lifestyle. Listen to the experts. Physical fitness specialists generally agree that you need to exercise 200 to 300 minutes per week to enjoy the maximum levels of physical well-being that are possible for you. This means that you need to exercise between 30 and 60 minutes, 5 to 7 times each week. At the low end, if you simply went for a 30-minute walk each morning before you started off for work or each evening when you got home from work as well as each weekend day, you would be one of the healthiest people in our society. If you increase your exercise level to 60 minutes each time, 5 times per week, you will be in the top 1 or 2% of physically fit people in the world today. Get started first thing. The best time to exercise is first thing in the morning. People who get up each morning and exercise for 30 to 60 minutes are much more likely to make exercise a permanent part of their daily routine. On the other hand, people who put off exercising until later in the day, until after work, almost invariably find that they are too tired or have too many other things to do. They procrastinate on exercising until another day, which often never comes. It takes tremendous discipline to get into and follow a regular exercise routine. But it is easier if you can discipline yourself to get up in the morning and start exercising immediately. Trick yourself. Many people, including myself, trick themselves into exercising in the morning by putting their exercise clothes right next to the bed so that they trip over them when they get up. Before they are even awake, they find themselves pulling on their exercise clothes and running shoes and starting off around the block. Before they even know what has happened, they are halfway into their exercise routine, their heart rate is up, their lungs are puffing away, and they are feeling good about themselves. Whenever people come back from a morning run or any other form of morning exercise, they are always happy and smiling. This is because of the exercise effect that kicks in after 25 or 30 minutes. Their brains release endorphins and they feel exhilarated. Increase your intelligence. People who engage in aerobic exercise first thing in the morning have been shown to be brighter, more creative, and more intelligent throughout the day. They actually score higher on intelligence tests, and they seem to come up with more ideas to help them do their work better during the course of the day. The reason for this is obvious. When you engage in aerobic exercise first thing in the morning, you drive hyperoxygenated blood into your cerebral cortex, the part of your brain that you use for thinking, analyzing, and decision-making. This makes you wide awake and alert from first thing in the morning and then for several hours afterward. When you exercise as soon as you get up, you kick your metabolic rate into a higher gear. As a result, your body continues to burn calories all day long. You continue to lose weight for several hours after exercising. When you exercise first thing in the morning or anytime during the day, you become hungry. However, because you are working out your body in such a healthy way, you will have a natural appetite for healthy foods. You will have little or no desire for sweet foods or desserts. Make exercise a part of your lifestyle. One of the best things you can do to achieve and maintain high levels of physical fitness is to join a gym or a health club and attend regular exercise classes. You can even pay a little more and get yourself a personal trainer who puts you through an exercise regimen 3 or more times each week. You are much more likely to discipline yourself to start and maintain a fitness routine if you have someone who is expecting you to be at a class or monitoring you on a regular basis to make sure that you follow the exercise program to which you committed. Many people today are hiring personal trainers. Either a personal trainer can come to your home or place of work, or you can go to a gym that has personal trainers on staff who will work with you on the specific equipment you want to use. People who use personal trainers are almost universally delighted with the results. They find that being accountable to a trainer exerts a positive influence on them, causing them to eat less so they have less weight to burn off, and to work harder when they exercise so that they can earn the approval of the trainer. Join an organized sport. Organized sports are a wonderful way to achieve and maintain high levels of physical fitness. They are far more demanding in terms of time and schedule, but the payoff is often extraordinary. If you are a member of a sports league, whether that be baseball, tennis, football, soccer, racquetball, or anything else, and you have a coach or trainer that you work with on a regular basis, you tend to be more focused and disciplined. You will exercise more often and more vigorously, and you will be fitter and trimmer than most other people. Develop new and better habits. Unfortunately, physical fitness and sports training require such high levels of discipline, and few people are capable of starting and continuing this kind of exercise regimen. For better or worse, whatever you do repeatedly becomes a habit, and many people get out of the habit of regular exercise and never go back. Fortunately, it is never too late. At any time, you can decide that you are going to enjoy high levels of physical fitness. You can make a decision, right now, to start a physical fitness routine of some kind and then set it as a personal test or challenge to see if you have the willpower and discipline to follow through on your resolution. You can start today. Some years ago, there was a 68-year-old woman living in a senior citizen's home who had never given much thought to physical exercise. She had worked hard, raised her family, become a grandmother, and was now living comfortably in a senior citizen's residence. One day, she saw a television special on jogging. During this special, they interviewed a couple of people in their 50s and 60s who were running marathons. Some of them had started running later in life. This 68-year-old woman decided that she wanted to run a marathon as well. She drove down to a nearby store and bought the proper shoes for walking and running. That day, she began her exercise regimen by walking around the neighborhood where she lived. Over the next few weeks, she walked ever greater distances. She bought books and sought advice on how to exercise and train her legs for running. Build up gradually. After 2 months, she began jogging a little as part of her walking routine. After 6 months, she began running as part of her walking and jogging routine. By the end of the first year, she had run in a mini marathon in her local community. By the time she was 75, she had completed 10 26.4-mile marathons and 2 50-mile cross-country marathons. And the most remarkable thing was that she had never run before the age of 68. So what's your excuse? If this 68-year-old woman could start exercising so late in life, why can't you? One of the greatest guarantors that you will live a long, happy life, being bright, alert, and full of energy, is that you begin a regular physical training program, 4 or 5 days per week, and continue it for the rest of your life. When you exert your self-discipline and willpower to achieve a high level of physical fitness and then maintain it year after year, you will feel terrific about yourself. In the next chapter, you learn how self-discipline in marriage can have a wonderful effect in assuring a long life of happiness and fulfillment with another person. Action exercises. 1. Today is the day that you are going to achieve the best physical condition of your life in the months ahead, and then take action immediately. 2. Get a complete medical examination so that you know your condition and limits before you begin. 3. Start walking 30 minutes each day, preferably first thing in the morning or, if not in the morning, right after work. 4. Join a gym or health club, pay for a year, and make an appointment with yourself to work out 5 times a week, 60 minutes each time. 5. Hire a personal trainer and have him/her guide you through an exercise program that includes aerobics, strength, and flexibility exercises each week. 6. Invest in a treadmill, a life cycle, or an elliptical machine and put it in front of your television so you can exercise as part of your home and family life. 7. Start gradually and work up slowly, resolving to exercise for several weeks before you notice a major difference. Be patient, persistent, and determined. Chapter 18. Self-discipline in marriage. It is better to control yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Then the victory is yours. It cannot be taken from you, not by angels or demons, heaven or hell. Buddha. Your ability to enter into a long-term, loving relationship is an important measure of your character and personality. Men and women are born to be two halves that make up one whole. They have different qualities and characteristics that, when properly combined, achieve completion and the balance and harmony that nature demands. The foundational qualities for marriage and loving relationships are trust and respect. Men and women can have many disagreements over the course of their married life together, but as long as the trust and respect between them endure, the marriage can go on indefinitely. If ever one or the other party can no longer trust the other or no longer respects the other, the relationship is finished. Many marriages end in divorce, and many divorced people have multiple marriages, each of which ends in failure. Yet some people get married once and stay married contentedly for the rest of their lives. Why is this? The key to a happy marriage. Perhaps the most important reason for a happy marriage is compatibility. The two people are ideally balanced with each other, with each one possessing complementary qualities and characteristics that combine comfortably to form a perfect balance. People often say that opposites attract. This is a misunderstanding. Opposites attract in only one area, and that is temperament. You will always be most compatible with a person who has an opposite or counterbalancing temperament to your own. For example, if you are outgoing and extroverted, you will be most compatible with a person who is more reserved and self-contained. If you are voluble and expressive, you will be most compatible with a person who is relaxed and a good listener. Nature demands a balance in temperament for two people to be compatible and happy together. Birds of a feather. In all other areas, especially in the area of values, it is similarities that attract. Birds of a feather do flock together. You will always be attracted to people and most compatible with those who have the greatest number of fundamental values in common with yourself. All of love, of any kind, is a response to value. We love what we most value, both in ourselves and others. When a couple is truly happy together, they seem to have very much the same values regarding family, money, ethics, work, children, politics, religion, and people. People will often point out that there are happy couples who vote for different parties or come from different religious backgrounds. But the critical issue in balance and harmony revolves around the intensity with which a person values something. This intensity determines if a person is absolute and unbending or relaxed and flexible in his or her adherence to a particular belief about a particular part of life. People can love and live together happily for many years even though they support different political parties, as long as political belief is not so important to either of them that it takes precedence over more important elements of their relationship such as children, family, and values. Love is our greatest need in life. It is said that everything we do in life is either to get love or to compensate for a lack of love. Psychologists generally agree that the root cause of personality problems in adult life can be traced back to love withheld in infancy and childhood. People need love like roses need rain. Without sufficient love and acceptance, individuals exhibit all kinds of personality and physical problems. It is only possible to be happy when your needs for love are completely fulfilled. A happy marriage requires tremendous self-discipline and self-control. Love requires self-denial and sacrifice. When you are truly in love with another person, that person's happiness and well-being become more important than your own. You are willing to pay whatever price and make whatever sacrifice in order to ensure the well-being of the person you love. In the Christian Bible, in a letter to the Corinthians, the Apostle Paul says, "Love suffereth long, and is kind, love envieth not, love avengeth not itself, is not puffed up. Love doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not his own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. Love rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Love beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Love never fails." Different strokes require tolerance and understanding. Each person is an individual, with unique and special characteristics that make him or her different from all other people. Each person has different ideas, tastes, desires, hopes, dreams, and expectations. Each person has had different experiences and developed different ways of seeing and dealing with the world around him or her. When you come together with another person in a loving relationship, no matter how close you feel to each other and no matter how compatible you may be in many ways, you will still have areas of disagreement, dissatisfaction, and discontent. This is normal and natural and something to be worked through by practicing self-discipline and self-control whenever these differences occur. Self-discipline in a relationship requires that you be completely honest and open, that you be yourself and never try to be someone or something else. Self-discipline and honesty require that you state clearly what you are thinking and feeling, without anger or irritation, and that you listen calmly and patiently to the feelings, thoughts, and opinions of the other person. Male-female communication styles. Men and women are different in many ways. According to MRI scans, when men communicate, they use only 2 centers of their brains. When women communicate, they use 7 centers of their brains. It is as though men have 2 headlights with which to communicate, whereas a woman's brain is like a fully lit Christmas tree. Men can process only one sensory input at a time, whereas women can process multiple sensory inputs. When a man is watching television, he does not see or hear anything else, including words spoken to him from the side or behind. He becomes totally fixated on the visual images and words on the screen. When a man is driving a car, he has to turn down the radio to read the map. He has to turn down the television or radio to answer the telephone. He cannot read and listen or watch at the same time. Men can do many things extremely well, but they can do only one thing at a time. Men tend to be very focused. Women, on the other hand, can talk, make dinner, watch television, read the day's mail, and talk to her children or husband all at once. They are multidimensional and can process several inputs simultaneously. They can talk and listen at the same time and be aware of what other people around them are doing and saying. Women are relationship experts. They are very sensitive to other people. When a man and a woman attend a social gathering, within 10 minutes, the woman will have done an analysis and assessment of the situation of each of the other people in the room. In contrast, the man accompanying the woman will have noticed little or nothing. This is because men are simple and straightforward in their thinking, whereas women are complex, aware of small details, and extremely sensitive to the dynamics and nuances of the relationships of the people around them. A man can call his wife on the phone and say, "Hello." Although she has only heard one word, she will immediately ask, "What's wrong?" She can pick up a wealth of meaning and emotion from a single word on the phone or a single glance or look when he walks in the door. Relationship building takes effort. Because of the many differences between men and women, it takes tremendous discipline to build and maintain a long-term, loving, and happy relationship. Perhaps the most important area of mutual compatibility has to do with the discipline of listening. It is only when 2 people take the time to listen closely and carefully to each other when they speak that the lines of communication stay open, and this is when love and harmony continue in the relationship. There are 4 simple disciplines of effective listening. They are mostly of importance to men, who are notoriously poor listeners, especially with the women in their lives. This is not because they are not interested. It is simply because their minds are focused on something else and they are easily distracted. The disciplines of listening. Listen attentively. The first discipline is to listen attentively, without interrupting. Listen as though the other person is about to reveal a great secret or the winning lottery number and you will hear it only once. When she wants to talk to you, if you are a man, put aside all possible distractions. Turn off the television or radio. Put down the newspaper or mail. Face her directly, lean slightly forward, and concentrate single-mindedly on what she is saying. The book His Needs, Her Needs points out that the most important need that a woman has from a man is affection. Affection is expressed by paying total attention to her when she speaks. Since you always pay attention to what you most value, when you pay close attention to another person while she speaks, you tell that person that she is of great value to you. This satisfies the deepest subconscious needs of a woman, to feel valuable, important, and respected. Pause before replying. The second discipline of listening is to pause before replying. Take a few seconds to carefully consider what he or she has said. When you pause, you avoid the risk of interrupting the other person if she is just reformulating her thoughts. You tell her that you value what she said and that you are giving her words careful consideration. Another advantage of pausing, of allowing a silence in the conversation, is that it enables you to hear not only what was said, but also what was not said or what was said between the lines. The actual message soaks into a deeper level of your mind, enabling you to understand better and to therefore respond with greater awareness and sensitivity. Ask for clarification. The third discipline of effective listening is to question for clarification. Never assume that you automatically know what the other person is thinking or feeling. Instead, if you are at all unclear, simply ask, "How do you mean?" or "How do you mean, exactly?" It is when you ask questions and seek clarity and meaning that you demonstrate to the other person that you really care about what he or she is saying, and that you are genuinely interested in understanding how he or she thinks and feels. Feed it back. The fourth discipline of effective listening is for you to feedback what the other person has said, and paraphrase it in your own words. This is the acid test of listening. This is where you demonstrate to the other person that you were genuinely paying attention. It is only when you can repeat back what the other person has just said, in your own words, that you prove to him or her that you were really listening. Most problems in relationships arise because of poor communication. The couple does not talk together often enough, or one or the other does not listen attentively when the other wants to speak. Each person has an emotional need to talk a certain amount with his or her spouse. Each person also has an emotional need to listen a certain amount. The most compatible couples are those in whom the desire to talk and listen are in balance with each other. There is an easy ebb and flow of conversation, punctuated with comfortable silences. Each person gets a chance to fulfill his or her need for both talking and listening, and both parties are content. Total commitment is essential. Love and marriage require total commitment on the part of both people. It takes tremendous discipline to go all in a relationship. What's more, this is also tremendously liberating. It is only when you are totally committed to a relationship with a single person that you are completely free to turn your attention toward fulfilling your potential in the other aspects of your life. One of the most important disciplines in a marriage or relationship is that of faithfulness. Because we live in a highly sexualized society, there are temptations and provocations around us all the time and virtually everywhere we go. It often takes considerable self-discipline and self-control to be completely loyal to your spouse throughout your married life. There are two ways to help you avoid the regular temptations that can damage or even destroy the most loving of relationships. First, make a decision, in advance, that you will never be unfaithful to your spouse. Like drawing a line in the sand, make the decision in advance that no matter what happens, you will not stray for any reason. Second, discipline yourself to stay out of harm's way. Refuse to go anywhere or do anything where temptation may exist. Except when essential for business purposes, avoid having lunch, drinks, or dinner alone with a member of the opposite sex. Remember, there is safety in crowds. Continually imagine, everywhere you go and in everything you do, that your spouse is standing right next to you, watching and listening to what you say and do. Imagine that anything and everything you do, no matter where you are, is going to be reported back to your spouse within 24 hours. Use your discipline and willpower to build and maintain a reputation for being a completely honest and faithful spouse. Be willing to change. Every marriage is a work in progress. As time passes, the nature of your marriage will change, usually in positive and constructive ways. To keep your relationship happy, harmonious, and growing, you must be willing to change in response to changing circumstances, especially having children and watching them grow up. You need to be prepared to change with age, new jobs and careers, physical moves from one part of the country to another, changes in financial circumstances, and changes in health. Flexibility is absolutely essential to a long, happy marriage. There are only 4 ways that you can change your life. First, you can do more of some things. Second, you can do less of other things. Third, you can start something that you have never done before. And fourth, you can stop certain things altogether. Whenever you are experiencing resistance or frustration, or you are confronted with the need for change, ask yourself, is there anything that I need to do more of, less of, start, or stop doing? The 4 questions you should ask. On a regular basis, you should sit down with your spouse and later with your children to have the courage to ask them these 4 questions. 1. Is there anything that I am doing that you would like me to do more of? 2. Is there anything that I am doing that you would like me to do less of? 3. Is there anything that you would like me to start doing that I am not doing today? When you have the courage and discipline to ask these questions of your spouse and your children on a regular basis, you will be amazed at the quality and depth of the answers you receive. You will get continual guidance on how you can modify and adjust your behaviors to maintain higher levels of harmony, happiness, and love with your spouse and the other members of your family. Your spouse should be your best friend. Love and marriage are perhaps the most important elements of a happy, fulfilling life. They require a lifelong exercise of self-discipline and willpower to create and maintain harmony. They require that you be open, honest, and candid at all times. Most of all, a loving marriage requires that you see your spouse as your best friend. There should be no one in the world who you would rather spend time with more than him or her. There should be no one with whom you are more open and honest than with him or her. When you see your spouse as your best friend and treat him or her as such, you can create a loving relationship that lasts all the days of your lives. As Emmett Fox, a spiritual writer and teacher, wrote, "Love is by far the most important thing of all. It casts out fear. It is the fulfilling of the law. It covers a multitude of sins. Love is absolutely invincible. There is no difficulty that enough love will not cure, no disease that enough love will not heal, no door that enough love will not open, no gulf that enough love will not bridge, no wall that enough love will not throw down, no sin that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake, a sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. If only you could love enough, you would be the happiest and most powerful being in the world." In the next chapter, you will learn specifically why self-discipline is so important when raising happy, healthy, and self-confident children. Action exercises. 1. What is the most important single action you could take, right now, to increase the love and harmony in your marriage or relationship? 2. What disciplines or practices could you develop that would improve the quality of your marriage for the other person? 3. Identify one behavior you could engage in that would improve your communications in your marriage. 4. Sit down with your spouse and ask him/her for ideas for things that you should do more of, less of, start, or stop doing. 5. Identify the 2 qualities that you most admire in your partner. 6. Identify the areas in which you and your partner are the most compatible. 7. Identify the most important values that you and your partner share. Thank you for watching. If you like audiobooks, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for more videos.